Welcome to this week's edition of Ask the Expert. And I am so excited about this topic because, we have really evolved in the industry as a profession, and it is a profession. And this week's topic really follows the career of someone who has weaved and bobbed and weaved through the industry in different roles and things like that. So we have a really fun topic, the journey and confessions of a contingent workforce professional. And we have Valerie Milburn from Intuit here today to talk to us. And like I had said, she's got over 20 years of experience in this crazy industry of ours. She's held global program manager roles on the client side, at major MSPs, including Yo and Randstad, Pro Unlimited, and really worked with some really high growth, high profile companies over the years and made a huge impact. And then from working kind of on the vendor side, transitioned into global program role at Block and other places in procurement, and then in HR at Intuit. So, if you think about the questions and some of the things, who should own the program, HR or procurement, working in a vendor, working on the client side, Valerie has done it all, and we're gonna have a great conversation today. So, Valerie, thank you so much for joining today. It's a fun topic.
Thanks, Jeff, for having me. I'm excited to do a deep dive and get asked all the questions. So happy to be here.
Well, like the introduction, you've seen a lot throughout your career, and it's really evolved. Your career has evolved, and the profession's evolved. And we have seen a lot of people transition either from the client side to the vendors or vendor side into running programs at the client side. So why don't you kind of go through your career journey a little bit, share it, and how did you get started in this industry is always the first thing I ask. And then, walk through, that mindset and progression and where you went from vendor to client and different vendors, etc.
Yeah, no, it's true. There is no linear line, right? There's nothing straight with anyone's career. And so for me, I knew when I left college that I wanted to do something because I was a psychology major. And I knew that I wanted to work with people, but I did not want to get my degree in psychology because I'm like, I do not want to go back. Like, I don't want to go to like medical school, but to kind of
Yeah.
practice medicine and stuff. So I thought that HR would be a really good place for me because I do enjoy the social element of people and learning the psychology of how people think. And so I thought, oh, easy. I'll just go and like apply for all these places within HR. And it was not that easy. I didn't have any experience. I was a fresh college grad. And so I was like, oh, well, maybe staffing. I didn't know anything about what staffing was, anything. And I applied for the staffing role at a boutique staffing firm, and it was so fun. Like I learned so much. It was because it was a boutique firm, the owner's daughter really took me under her wings and taught me everything about the industry. And that was at the time where it was at its highest in 2001. So it was
Yeah.
right before people were making money hand over fist. Again, I didn't know anything about anything.
Yeah.
I didn't know that people could make so much money in staffing. I just thought, oh, sounds amazing. And so then 9/11 happened.
Yeah.
I was 6 months into my role, and it actually probably was good for me because I actually really learned how to recruit. Like it
Yeah.
wasn't like everybody's just like the person's breathing, oh, send them over. It
Yeah.
wasn't like I really had to search for people. And so I did that for many years. So that was about, like I said, 2001. And I stayed within staffing for about 10 to 12 years. And then thought, well, okay, and because I had moved from different firms and everything, of course. And I said, I don't want to go down the road of being a branch manager because that's very salesy and I'm an operations person. Like that's
Yeah.
what I like to do. And so I decided, I like this on-site management thing. I mean, I know a lot about staffing. So why not me manage other staffing people? And so that's how I got into MSP. It was a great fit. I really enjoyed it. And then here I go again. Like I'm at that crossroads where I'm like, okay, do I move into a director type role or upper level
Yeah.
leadership within MSP? Again, there's a sales element for the companies that I
Oh,
worked at
very
with
much so. Yeah.
Randstad, and and so I'm like, no, I really don't want to do that. So I've always been very strategic, and I've always known what I do well and what I don't want to do.
Yeah.
And so I decided, okay, I'm going to take my skill set and I'm going to try to see if I can get in house and and just really kind of hone in on what I can learn on the other side. And
Yeah.
that's exactly what I did. So that's kind of like the transition from every place. And I started off on the procurement side with like with procurement owning the program, and now I'm at a company where HR owns the
Of the
program. And
program. Yeah.
so yeah, it's really fun. It's been a fun journey throughout the time, but throughout the years.
Well, and it's amazing from being a psychology grad. It is amazing when you start thinking about the psychology in our industry, right? And so, especially in staffing, because you're basically a career counsel, if you're really good at your job and care,
Right.
you help people with their career development and helping them find jobs and then helping them choose between jobs. And it's not always, about you helping them take your role only. You're helping them find the right role for them and using your psychology background in helping them through that process. And then you evolve into, you know, the contingent workforce management and you're convincing internal stakeholders to buy in, to then working with vendors to help them work on your program versus others, et cetera. And so, it's
Right.
amazing how, although when you come out of college, you don't know what you're going to do, but then being able to apply that background in our industry is huge.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's funny that you say that, Jeff, because I stayed and steered away from sales like almost my entire career. But I mean, I knew that my role had a sales element to it because
Yeah.
you do. It's
Yeah.
it's it's both. It's learning and understanding the people that you are working with and the people on the other side that you're trying to help hire for, right?
Yeah.
And then it's also selling to them to say why this candidate is so good for you that you should take them. And so now that I'm in this role on the other side, I really, it is a lot of, part of it is sales, it's PR, it's all the
It
stuff,
is.
right, where
Yeah.
it's like trying to make sure that I influence them to understand some of the sides of the contingent workforce stuff that goes
Yeah.
along with it. So yeah, it's amazing.
So, and it sounds like the moves you made in your career were also really, you knew what you love to do and were passionate
Yeah.
about versus in sales it gets a bad rap sometimes because there is a pressure from a revenue generation for the company's interest and maybe not individuals or your client's interest in some cases, and that's where the pressure you don't want to get involved with, and that can be somebody else's job. But the operational side of doing what you do and the sales components in making sure it's all gelling together and stakeholders buying into things, candidates are buying in, and it's all moving along in a very efficient manner is what you're passionate about. And I love how intentional you were, right? To say, okay, I can move up and my current situation, but it's not me, right? And so
Right.
let's move here, and it's still a move up, but let's move to the next type of solution. And it was amazing evolution from the standpoint of going from staffing, which tends to be repetitive, to hey, I want to use my brain now and be more strategic and have to do MSP, bringing all the components together, and
Yes.
then learning and learning and learning, and then moving into the client side. What has been some of the learnings in that from moving from the program, running programs in the, as an MSP to then being an internal stakeholder running the programs?
Yeah, no, that's good. I find that there are lots of things that are similar, actually,
Yeah.
because I feel like when I was on the MSP side, I still had to influence my leadership to do certain things that I wanted to do, right? Because, I was responsible for the program. And so sometimes some of the ideas that I had were, I wouldn't say unorthodox, but they were, like, because I worked a lot with tech companies. And so
Yes.
you have to have that out of the box thinking. They're not just going to go for the status quo. You have to think like, a million miles a minute. And so I find that the differences are very small iterations, right? So it's like learning different systems that are connected to the procurement side or the
Yeah.
HR side of things, right? So that's very kind of tactical, and then also learning how things are connected are a little bit different. For example, we in on the other side, on this side, there are finance folks and HR legal folks
Yeah.
and things like that I get a chance to talk to a lot more, and I have to kind of run things up by them through the chain to make sure that the company as a whole, that we're positioning ourselves correctly for the contingent workforce program, right?
Yeah.
Whereas on the other side, when I was responsible for my program, I kind of made a lot of autonomous decisions on my own
Yeah.
because it was my program and I took full ownership of it. Now, of course, there were things if I needed permission to do things or wanted to run something by someone, I would, of course.
Yeah.
But for the most part, everything was me making a decision. Whereas here, not as much, which I actually kind of love because when I have to talk to these people, I'm learning something new every
Yeah.
single time,
Yeah.
right? Like when I HR legal, seriously, they're my best friends.
Oh, they would
Like
be.
they're on
They
my
would be.
favorite Slack on the Slack channel. They're like my favorites. So yeah, it's those types of things that are a little bit different, but
Yeah.
it's fun. And I think also too is making sure that the leadership here at the company is really aware of what is happening. And because I come from being on more the consultative side, I always want them to understand and keep it visible about this program. Because sometimes contingent workforce programs are not top of mind
Yeah.
with leadership. There's all these other programs going on. And I always want them to know, look, this is what we're doing. We're making some tremendous headways or whatever. So that's kind
Yeah.
of the difference.
Yeah. It always is. And often I've in our industry, the vendors don't see all of the moving parts, the stakeholders that you have to pass things through, the timing of different corporate initiatives and priorities. And if you
Right.
miss a window of opportunity to get a VMS integration into the tech stack of the ERP
Right.
integrations and things like that, you've missed the window for another year often. So,
Correct.
it is amazing the different priorities and stakeholders that you have to manage on the client side that you may not have understood as a vendor because you're just selling a product that you go, oh, hey, my product's the best. Why don't you just buy it? And you
Right.
don't really see all the other things, how you fit it into what the corporation's priorities are and timing of things, etc. So it's pretty
Absolutely.
neat to see both sides of it.
Yeah,
Um,
I was just talking to my leadership, and they were saying apparently from what my manager told me, they were like, he was like, we were trying to present this thing and it was no, 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 no for so long. And now we've gotten a yes, right? And so I told him, I said, you know what? Sometimes it's just timing. It's nothing personal. It's not your idea stinks. It's just sometimes when it's no, it's not right now. And sometimes they can't tell us why it's not right now,
Yeah.
right? Because of
Yeah.
whatever other priorities are going on in the organization. But right now we have this time. And so let's move because the window could close. So to your point, it's so true. Timing is everything.
Yeah. So you've also worked with a lot of like fast moving companies, some of the largest MSPs on programs at some of the coolest companies, like tech companies, etc. Um, so the strategic impact of the CW programs, like, and a lot of people don't even know the name Pro Unlimited anymore because it's, Magnet, Pro, and
Right.
Workforce Logic came together to make Magnet. And so you've been around the industry and Pro in particular with we're really focused on running programs at some of the high growth companies and the tech companies. And so you've really seen the impact that organizing and contingent program has made on some of these companies. Can you talk to some of that? Like how did these companies start to use their contingent program? How you've come in and helped them organize it and some of the benefits of that?
Yeah, sure. So one of the when I first so I started off, my first program was at an insurance was First American
Yeah.
Insurance. And so insurance not very sexy. Let's be honest. But it was they have been around for many many years,
Yeah.
especially here in America. First American is that old solid title and insurance company, and they had already been very well established in their contingent workforce program. So it was kind of up and running. Not a lot of things that were new. They didn't want a lot of changes. And then I transitioned into another MSP, which was PlayStation. So, where PlayStation is obviously it's huge. They have studios in northern California, Santa Monica, and then down in San Diego. And so when I oversaw that program, it was a shift in mindset, right? So really kind of getting like, they wanted strategy, they wanted innovation, they wanted everything that you can think of because again, tech company.
Yep.
And so for me, it was about really having conversations with the leaders to understand what is it that you're trying to accomplish, because for that particular company, every area had its own idea of what they wanted. So it was
Yeah.
almost like running three programs within one program. And I was like, oh my goodness. I was constantly doing QBRs. I was like, oh my goodness. So I for me, it's about really partnering. That's like
Yeah.
the best thing that I can say. Partnering, understanding, staying curious, asking questions. No questions are dumb. It's really because what I have in my mind around strategy, right, could be very different than what they are thinking about.
Yeah.
So I just kind of continue to like get to know them. That's one of my superpowers, I always say, is really like loving to talk to people, honestly,
Yep.
loving to talk to people and understanding what it is that they need and how I can help them. And so that works for me. And so that's kind of how I have always run my programs, is just understanding, where I can fit in
Yes.
and make sure that I can make a difference.
Yeah, and fit into the strategy of the company that you're doing this with, right? And
Right.
how that helps them with their strategy because be it scaling the operations because they need the talent to, cost savings if that's one of the strategic initiatives, et cetera. But generally in the company, a lot of the companies you've been in, it's more about finding the right talent at the right time and making sure it's compliant so that there isn't any issues with any of the regulatory issues, et cetera. So it's amazing
Exactly.
the impact that the contingent workforce program does have for an organization. Um, like you've also shifted not only from the vendor side to the client side, but more recently you've moved from the procurement realms who own the program to now the HR realms. Can you talk a little bit about the differences between the two types of programs and what priorities are, what some of the mandates and the thinking is when you shift from procurement to HR? And they're both very prevalent in the industry, and we are seeing a little bit more of a push to the talent side in HR holding programs. But what have you seen and the key differences?
Yeah, so different, Jeff. So different. And as you can imagine, it's probably, when I sat in procurement, the goal and the drive is always cost savings, right? Like how can we save more money, and that was the drive. And from the HR standpoint, it's more people focused.
Yeah.
And so we're not really as we're always concerned. Let me just make sure I say this right. We're always wanting to make sure that we are getting the best deal, but we also want the best talent. And
Yeah.
so Intuit is a very heavy focus people forward organization, and our HR team and program is very focused on that as well. And so that's what I've seen the difference to be. I actually enjoy the HR side because that resonates with me. Again, people,
Yeah.
right? I'm always loving people. So I now it's great because I am encouraged to look at the people experience, not just the manager experience, not just the worker experience, but the people experience. So I I see that is the major shift for me, where I can look at this program that I'm overseeing as making sure that everyone has a good experience and it is rewarded to look at it that way.
Yeah, no, it's neat because, well, and to take back to history, a lot of the contingent programs were in the mid to 2008, 2009 timeframe when there was the economic cycle came through.
Yes.
And so procurement often grabbed this as a cost savings initiative by, consolidating and centralizing the management of the extended workforce. They could drive cost savings, right? And
Right.
so it's been interesting. And then as the companies you've worked with, and it's moved to the talent side, it really is about the talent and especially how strategic getting the right talent is. Even though we're going through another economic cycle, getting the right talent is still really tough. So making sure they're having the experience to be productive too is important,
Absolutely.
right?
Absolutely. Because we're all grabbing from the same pool, right? It's especially within tech, everyone and there are some great suppliers. We partner with some of them, and they do a phenomenal job, and so I give kudos to our suppliers that we work with. At the same time, there is, we have everyone, especially when we're in tech, you have all of the big names, the Googles and the Metas and the Apples and the, everybody, right? And we all want the same people, right? And so we want to make sure that we stand out
Yeah.
to them, and they love working with us, and that they tell their friends, colleagues, or whatever. And so that's why I feel like making a program people focus, people having that people experience. Not only do we, yes, you can do some fun work here, and but also the people that you're going to work with are also going to be pretty extraordinary. And
Yeah.
so that's what we want to make sure that we're aiming for.
Yeah, no, and it's so important. And it's amazing because I too came from the staffing industry and worked a lot in the HR realms, was my early clients. And it was about employment branding to recruit the right people into your organization and attract them. And when it's all about cost savings, dollars and cents and contracts, it personalizes it. And you got to remember, we're in the procurement of people, not
Right.
widgets, pencils, and paper. And so they are people too. A consultant and a contractor and a temp worker are people too, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so it's very important because you could pay $50 an hour to someone that you don't treat well and they aren't productive, and you get less value. The $50 an hour of someone that you're treating well, not to say, of course you can talk about compliance, but let's take that off the table. Let's just respect them and treat them
Right.
like humans, and they'll give way more for that $50 an hour,
Absolutely.
right?
Absolutely.
So
100%.
it is neat that you start to see some of that as you shift it into being a talent focused solution, right? And owned by HR. So, you worked for some of the best tech companies. Let's talk about technology evolution in our industry and what you've seen and some of the things you're excited about. Like, of course, we've moved from, traditional VMS to now direct sourcing to now, as we look at the world as we know it changing with AI. What have you seen in some of the programs that you've been involved with, or some that things that you're looking at that either you've been game changers or that you're starting to look at, haven't implemented them yet, but see them as potential game changers and you're excited about the future of it?
Well, so AI is the buzz, Jeff, as you know. It's been the buzz for quite some time. And I'll be very honest, I was very reluctant to grab on to that AI element, especially in the world of contingent workforce HR, because it's while it's amazing and can help in so many ways, it can also be harmful sometimes in certain spaces within HR, selecting candidates. We don't want any of that, right? And
Yeah.
so I've always kind of shunned away from it, even to the point of I've had a friend that has been using AI for many, many years. And he has said, Valerie, you need to embrace this and like have it help you. And I'm
Yeah.
like, no, I don't want to lose my ability to write, you know what I mean? To critically think about what I'm gonna say.
Yeah.
And so he's like, okay, I guess he said, I'm just gonna give up and she'll come to the light when it's time. But I have now embraced it and our company is encouraging us to use it. And Jeff, I must say, I literally, I'm blown away, right? I'm blown away at how seamless things can be and how it has made my job easier. And so I say that to say, I am using AI and I'm very excited about AI in our industry for the helpfulness and
Yeah.
support that it can be for us. I now feel like I have my personal assistant, my executive assistant, and her name is Gemini.
Yeah.
um, so that's been perfect. But I also want to make sure that I stress too that we all, as a society, should be very responsible for
Yeah.
how we are using AI, and it's up to all of us collectively to make sure that we are using it in a responsible way.
Yeah. No
So
question.
but yeah, I mean, I'm so excited. That's what I'm most excited about is that, and how I can um hopefully maybe implement some of these bots
Yeah.
into into like workflows that we have for
Yeah.
managers, how we can maybe have something like a tool that will, because so at Intuit, we kind of hop on this train very early.
Yeah.
And many people probably know that. Like if you've ever used any of our products, we have always kind of had AI help
Yeah.
drive that innovation. And so our managers and our population are very used to having chat bots kind of like, hey, how do I do this, right? Like, or what is that, so bringing that into the contingent workforce will be so great,
Yeah.
and that's what I'm kind of looking forward to. So yeah.
Yeah, and because a lot of your time is stakeholder management and frequently asked questions that they want
Mm-hmm.
to hear it from a human, if you can bring a human aspect to the chatbots or that to answer some of the frequently asked questions, that reduces your time spent on things that are constantly the same answer so that you
Exactly.
can focus on the key value add things or the things that are a little unique. And then it also makes things more self-service, right?
Yes, absolutely.
And what used to be you need 15 people in a program to take all the calls and qualify racks and move things through systems, some of these agents and bots, like you say, are able to answer a chunk of the questions so that you really at this time you can focus on the value added or the unique situations versus kind of the day to day. And I think you're going to see more of that in it. So I'm glad you're excited about it because I'm so pumped about that too. Because a lot of it is administrative support, and a lot of clients have been asking vendors to be more strategic. But when you get caught up in the day to day because you've got a stakeholder that needs something fixed or a worker at a time and everything's urgent, right? And all these
Mm-hmm.
fires, you don't
Mm-hmm.
get to the strategic levels. And so I think as this technology comes through and enhances the day-to-day workflows, it's going to be pretty exciting. So.
Absolutely, because there's so many projects, right? I mean, like I have a list like this on for my initiatives that I want to bring to the table, and having the AI and the bots, or all the stuff that goes along with it to help me so that I can work through some of those initiatives just makes me so happy. Like I'm just like,
It's
yes.
amazing. So we could keep talking forever, but I usually wrap these up at the end with a hey, after 20 plus years in this industry and navigating and really building an amazing career, what provide some advice to either your 20-year-old self that had just come out of college again or someone that's just kind of starting to look to build their career in the contingent workforce. What advice would you give, especially how you've navigated yours so intentional? What would you give to others, some advice?
So early on, I was a perfectionist. Like I felt like I was a box checker, right? Go to college, check, do all the things, right? I had a long list, and there's no need for that. Perfection is not healthy because you'll never get there. So
Yeah.
I would say to my younger self is aim for excellence, right?
Yeah.
Excellence in whatever it is that you're going to do. So if you're going to try out something new, if you're going to go into another industry, if you're going to whatever, always strive to be excellent in that and learn as much as you can. There are no stupid questions. You don't have to look
Yeah.
a certain way, like, oh, I'm going to look stupid if I ask that question.
Yeah.
No, ask the questions,
Yeah.
be curious, make friends, get mentors along the way. Just make sure that you kind of do a deep dive into whatever it is that you are going to do, so that when you walk away from that thing, because it may just be for a season,
Yeah.
whatever it is, you can walk away saying, you know what, I learned so much. Or even if you just learned one thing on how to do
Yeah.
one thing very well, it's going to take you so far in your career, and you're going to be just fine. You're
Yeah.
going to be fine, whatever it is that you're aiming for, as long as you have a goal. So just make sure that you have a goal, You have fun along the
Yeah.
way, make lots of friends, and you'll do well.
Yeah. It is an amazing industry, right? Like that has been, I think, I've been very fortunate that I'm kind of a talkative guy like yourself and done some neat things over the time and made a lot of friends. And networking is just natural in our industry. People care to help you and teach you as well and share. It's been amazing to see, and especially when you look on LinkedIn, people are already sharing information and helping each other out. So
Right,
yeah, don't be shy, I think, is your nugget of gold. Don't be shy, make friends, learn, right? And ask
right,
questions. Don't be shy. I think that's
right.
the key because there's a lot of people willing to share, right?
Yes,
So
absolutely. Yeah, people want to help you.
it's amazing. So Valerie, thank you so much for your time. This has been an amazing conversation, and I love your journey and the confessions that you had as a contingent workforce professional. So thank you so much.
Thanks for having me, Jeff. I look forward to. I know that people that are going to be watching this, I know that we're probably going to cross paths at some point in time with some of those networking conferences. So I look forward to meeting everyone.
Awesome. Thank you again.
Thank you. Bye bye.